Communications and Marketing Director for the city. We're so glad you're here. I'm going to start by passing it over to Mayor Larry Wolgast for some opening statements. You can take this off if you want.
Good morning. Glad to have you here, and some of you were here a month ago or something like that. No, 2 months ago in April, May, June, yes. And I see some new faces, and that's welcome. Where are we? Neighborhoods. I talked about this. I learned a lot about neighborhoods in the last 4 or 5 years, and in the process, really come to believe neighborhoods are the keys to a city. The quality of life in a city is many times determined by its neighborhood. Or what is a neighborhood? Where we live is the neighborhood. And we all want where we live, our neighborhood, our quality of life to be the best it can be. And quality of life varies a great deal. To some, better quality of life is getting rid of a dilapidated house. To another, quality of life is having the brush cut down. To another, quality of life is establishing a relationship within a neighborhood so that the people relate, they get acquainted, they help one another, and that's really what it's about. To others, a better neighborhood is maybe just a process that we have public safety. So our neighborhood is safe from everyone, from children to grandparents. We go out and walk on the streets. We have reasonable good sidewalks. The streets are good. We don't have water main breaks. Okay, we can go on and on of what could be the perfect neighborhood. But the city can't do it alone. They need help, support from the individuals. It's just like with public safety. We can't put a police officer on every block. Those cities where public safety improves, there is involvement with the community. The people working with the police department create a better city. So the way we look at it, all of you working with the city can create better neighborhoods. We don't have all the answers, certainly, and we don't have the solutions, and we don't always have the money to do everything. But we have to find a process, a plan to bring it about. And that's where we want to involve, we involve you. We don't want to, we have to, we need you. Only through the community. We are Topeka. And what we do then determines the city and where it goes. We have so many good things going on. We have fantastic neighborhoods we can be very proud of. But at the same time, there are things we want to do to make them better, naturally. So here we are. And I know some of you have stated concerns for many years. You've said, okay, we have this issue in our neighborhood. We've reported it. Why doesn't something happen? We say that over, and I know, I've visited many years. So perhaps the process is not right. Maybe we don't hear it right, or maybe it's something that has to involve more than just a fix-it, making something done very quickly. So today, I know the staff have developed a good plan. Well, I won't say it's good. We have a plan. We have to see how it works. We have to engage, learn from you maybe what some priorities are and how we address them. We don't all have the solutions. I know you don't always have the solutions on what we do to make things better. But we have to, the most difficult process is going from here to here. And that's a challenge. We can spend all day saying what's wrong with our neighborhoods, but we have to take that next step and start acting on it, developing a plan. And I'm hopeful that in the next 2 or 3 months, we can start doing something. We can do something that will make a change, that many people will support, work for, and bring us along. So certainly I welcome you I want to work with you. What can we do? And you hold us accountable so that we achieve what you think we should be achieving and what the needs are, what are the highest priorities. So that's where we are, and I again welcome you. I think this is a fantastic turnout we have here today. And I know from knowing many of you, we're representing all areas of the city. And from this then, we'll be working and seeing what we bring about to go to that next step. And with that, I will turn it over to Monique. Is that correct? Thank you very much.
Good morning. Good morning. For those of you I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Monique Glaudet, and I currently am the Resident Liaison Services representative for the City Manager, Jim Colson's office. And this morning, it's my privilege to talk to you about why we're here and to also touch base with you about the Neighborhood Task Force that was created. They met first on June 19th, which was just a couple of weeks ago, and how that came into existence is on April the 20th when we had our first neighborhood summit. We heard your concerns, you voiced your concerns, and we talked about a partnership and creating a partnership with a neighborhood task force, which would be representation from each neighborhood that would partner with the city departments to talk about issues and concerns that you have in your neighborhood and how we together as a team can address those. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to, let me back up for just a moment. The neighborhood task force members that are here, do you mind standing or raising your hand so at least the others can acknowledge and see who you are? Thank you very much. We appreciate your commitment. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the City of Topeka Planning Director, Bill Fyander.
This doesn't come off? A rock star. Good morning. Bill Fyander, Planning Director for the city. I'm here to tell you how the day is structured and how this is going to work. How do we get from what the mayor was talking about here to there? We have on your agenda, on the back, there are the ideas, the solutions, if you will, that have been extracted from the first neighborhood summit. Behind me are five titles. One is other, but the other four were priority topics from the first neighborhood summit. Public safety, property maintenance, communication, and parks. Under each one of those are ideas that came from the first summit. We had over 300 ideas, 300 comments at least, came from the first summit. We took all of those and the ones that received the most votes at that first go around, and we have about couple dozen ideas that came forth that received the most interest and that we're presenting to you today to develop more. So we're going to have, with each one of these topics, we will give you time to talk about the ideas that are on the sheet. We'll give you time to talk about any other ideas that you have relative to these topics. The main part here is trying to have solutions, as the mayor talked about. We don't want to get back into what is wrong. We'd like to take that what is wrong and develop it more. How do we fix it? How do we get to where we want to be with that idea? How does it work? What do you think about it? So we want you to, because at the end of this meeting, you're going to vote again. And so I think Susie's going to be writing the ideas that you want up on the wall, that you want to vote on. So the ideas, the solutions that are talked about today in the next 40 minutes or so, 50 minutes or so, will be up on the wall. And then at the end, I don't know, you will get 5 votes, 5 dots to come back up and select which ones you think are the priorities, because it's those priorities that you're going to hand off to the neighborhood task force that Monique was just talking about. So that task force, their agenda is going to be set by you. It'll be up to them then to take those priorities and to work on them Maybe not all of them, maybe just a couple. But we want you to be able to tell them what you want them to work on. And over the course of the next 3 to 6 months, they will do that and come back with their recommendations of how these ideas, how these solutions, if they work for Topeka, and how would they work for Topeka, and how can we do these. So before I get into the first, or it's not going to be me, we'll have various facilitators come up for each of these topics. Are there any questions about how to proceed? We're going to have a microphone. We have it. We have another microphone, a City 4 microphone. Very nice.
Thank you.
That will be coming around. So raise your hand, we will get the microphone to you, and we are live.
We're live streaming
So,
online
yeah, hello.
on Topeka.org.
So we need to speak in the microphone, and
And we're going to hand it over to Brad
we'll hand it over to
right
Brad.
now. We're going to talk about property maintenance and housing first.
There we go. Now we can rock and roll. Good morning, everyone. That's not too bad for a Saturday morning. Alrighty, the topic that I'm going to be visiting with you guys about is property maintenance and housing. Real quickly, I just kind of want to review some of the top issues that came out of the Neighborhood Summit 1 related to this. So, lack of enforcement of code compliance violations, a landlord ordinance, the need for code compliance officers, identifying all dilapidated housing and identifying solutions to turn them around, infill housing, eliminate boarded windows, and a certificate of occupancy for rental units. So as Bill mentioned, what we're here this morning to do is to kind of get some additional ideas and solutions from you guys as to what we should be working on related to property maintenance and housing. So I'm turning the floor over to you guys. So I'm looking for some ideas from you guys, ideas and solutions. Who's going to be my first volunteer? Because I know you, okay, we got one.
Well, I'll be the first one then. Like in our community, we got a lot of houses that have been kind of run down over in the East Topeka area, And my solution is to go around, knock on these people's door, find out who lives there first, not just to go in and just try to demolish something and you don't know that individual situation. So working together, that's the main thing. If we can knock on the door, if they don't answer, speak to the neighbors, speak to somebody in that community or the churches. Somebody should know who lives there if you're in that community. So that's my start off.
So let me paraphrase that really quick. So kind of what you're getting at is that as part of property maintenance and housing, communicating better with those property owners, with the neighbors, to kind of.
You never know what kind of situation.
Mhm.
They might not have money to fix their houses. Sometimes go in there and speak to them or visit with them. I know we can take the time out and do that and find out who lives there. And if the person, if he's a slumlord or whatever, talk to him about selling the house. Let somebody get in there that will fix the houses and just not tear them down, because there's a lot of homeless people that could use a house.
Thank you. Another question or solution idea. We got one up front.
Thank you. Let's have code compliance. We have a little problem with that. So I had 3 different code compliances in the last few years. When we had one person in there, for some reason, she got things done. Mm-hmm. Now we have another one. He's trying, but I don't know why he's not getting it done. We have bigger messes now. So I think with the code compliance, I think this girl needs to show some of the other code compliance guys how she got it done, because she was working in another state. And maybe they have better ideas, a way to do things, but I think a little more training, because we have big nightmares since the last meeting, and I don't know why it happened, but it it's really a big nightmare, and they need to stick to the rules and not bend some of the rules that they've been bending.
Can you talk more specifically?
We have a situation right now. If you go up on Sardo Bridge, there was 4 trailers in North Topeka. It's not in my neighborhood. It's on the other side. They had permit to tear the trailers down. The first trailer looked like they set a bomb off, and it scattered everywhere. They did not have a permit to tear down a garage. They tore the garage down, let it drop. They destroyed a boat. So then after they called code compliance, they said they were working on it. After that, then it looked like a big bomb was dropped over there, and you can still drive over there. It's taken them a month to even put any yellow taping around it, so it was a safety issue for one thing. It still is a safety issue because this stuff is everywhere. So you still see it. You can drive over Sardo Bridge and just look down, and it just looks like somebody dropped a bomb there. So that's my concern, was the fiberglass that was in those trailers, all the stuff that just scattered everywhere, and how they allow them to tear those trailers down. Because I've had one trailer already, because the way they allowed them to do it blew up and could have took out the neighborhood because the gas meter was still connected to it. So that was my main concern with these other 4 trailers, is did they check that safety? Did they do it? And I was told that code compliance is handling it. That's all I got told. Code compliance is handling it. They did not handle it very well.
So let me ask you, if you want our code compliance to be stronger, how specifically? Because you know that we're in kind of a sticky budget.
Right, I
situation.
understand that. I don't know. I can't understand how. I hate to name her, but she's good. Becky is Soapy. When we had her, for the few months we had her, for some reason, how she goes about and does things, and she even helps people that don't have money. She found them ways to get people to help them to get their problem fixed. But she got things done. Why we can't get that with other code compliance, I don't understand.
Maybe training?
Better training, evidently, because she does a real good job. And that's why I always tease her every time I see her. I said, please, Becky, please come back. We miss you. And, and it's becoming a little joke. But for some reason, the few months that we had her, she really got on top of stuff and got things done. And it wasn't before her, hasn't been since her. So there's something she does special that gets the job done.
Okay. Thank you, Teresa.
Brad, I want to make sure that you know that Patty Burkholder wasn't able to be here, but Major Calvin is in charge of code compliance. So maybe you want to let him to maybe address, or did he say something? We definitely don't want to overlook him.
Susie, maybe mentoring, because she was mentioning that if Becky could teach some of the other officers that some of her methods, I guess, would be good. So maybe that's mentoring as well.
Let's just go on. Next question or comment, idea.
My thoughts on this are, we have a planning board that crafts a lot of good ordinances, for the neighborhoods. And it seems like the problem is there's so many of them out there that they're not enforced. We keep crafting these ordinances that says you can't do this, you can't do that, and nobody enforces them. Just for an example, people living in trailers in the driveways. Code goes by every day, doesn't say anything to them. Semi trucks in the neighborhood, in the driveway, in the backyard, parked out in front. That's a no-no. Nothing's done about it. You turn it in. Code says, well, the police department's supposed to take care of that. You ask the police department, they say, no, code's supposed to take care of that. And in the meantime, this guy parks his truck there and he gets away with it. Well, somebody else on the next block brings in a truck.
So if I can kind of summarize where you're going, what you're talking about is both enforcement of some of the existing codes, but then also kind of related to this first issue, better training, coordination between some of the city departments in terms of who needs to enforce what. That's kind of where you're going.
Can everyone stand just for our online viewers?
Okay. I'd like to ask the major some questions. code compliance is a big thing, and I was president of our neighborhood association several years ago when the police department took over the code compliance. Everybody that I talked to was very polite about the issue of a house on the corner of Huntoon and Gage, which we could never even find where we found out who the owner was. We could never find out where she lived or how to get directly in contact with her. And the code compliance department was not interested in doing that. Everybody was very polite, but they didn't do anything. Finally, I paid to have it mowed myself. Now, I'd like to know, how many code compliance officers do you have?
We have 6 out there actually
Okay.
inspecting and enforcing.
And do you give them specific assignments for code compliance issues that are reported by the public to deal with?
Yes, we do.
Okay, how many of those assignments does each of the 6 have?
Depending on the territory that they are within the city, some of them have a lot more than others. This month alone, and we'll go back to May, because May we had a record number of compliance complaints and for period ever for code compliance. And with your mowing, they've been addressed. The tough part about mowing is I drove down a street the other day and I looked at the weeds and I went, you know, they're about at the level, but they're not yet. And I went by this today or yesterday, and they were 2.5 feet tall. And I'm going, oh, wow, you know, so.
Okay, so you've got 6, I don't want to get into the weeds literally or figuratively, but you've got 6 officers for the whole city of Topeka.
Yes.
That's probably not enough. I think most people here would agree that sounds like a very insufficient number of people.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Okay, now, you have assigned certain complaints to each of them. How do you follow up on those? In other words, do they have a time limit on how much time they have to settle that issue? And how do you keep track of what they are doing and how successful they are in completing their assignments?
Each complaint, forgive me that I don't work, Patty Burkhalter is the one that manages it completely. So if I have an hour a day slightly wrong, but each complaint has to be addressed within 48 hours. The officer reports on the complaint that they went out there and takes photographic evidence to show if there's really actually a violation or not, and turns that in. And then they show the process of what they have to do. If you were talking about weeds, that they make the notifications and we get started and it's all documented.
What percentage of the complaints are found to be actual code violations?
I can't give you an exact number.
Well, see, that's an important number, isn't it?
Well, of course it's an important number, but each of them are addressed and each of them are photographed and each of them are documented, and the supervisors also go and double check.
Okay, what is your requirement for valid complaints? How long does the officer have to settle that, to actually solve it before that officer is called on the carpet for that?
I can't give you the exact hours myself, personally.
Okay, we want to focus on solutions. So we know that we have problems, and we just want to hear your ideas for solutions. So if I'm sure you have a lot of questions for him, and we can probably.
Well, I
arrange that
think
for
it was
afterwards.
important to illuminate for the people in this room how the system works or doesn't work, how understaffed it is, and because that has a lot to do. We can give you all sorts of ideas for solutions, but if you don't have the staff to
So
apply those
is that your
solutions-
solution? More code compliance officers?
Well, that may be needed, and I can give you some further ideas for that. For example, code compliance complaints are probably to a certain extent seasonal, are they not?
When it comes to weeds, yes.
Yeah. Well, that's one complaint. So I'm thinking that perhaps people who have assignments at times of the year, when their workload is low, they can be reassigned to code compliance. In other words, maybe we need a more flexible city workforce.
Thank you.
Just to comment on that, when you're involved in city government or any other bureaucracy, it's very easy to go to work, and as long as you get there on time, answer the phone, make notes, and stay the full time and go home, your day is nice and pleasant and everything goes well. But when you start to try to solve problems, you get into a morass and your stress level goes up. And so all the incentives are against solving a problem, putting it off, ducking, and hiding. I mean, that's just the reality, folks. And I'm not saying that the city people are any worse than anybody else in that regard. But somebody has to address that tendency, that natural human tendency, and solve it. And so, you know, somebody has to crack the whip and make sure these things get solved. I will let somebody else talk at this point.
Next idea. Let's see, Frank over here, and then we'll come back over to you. Then.
Is there any way that property that's deteriorating can be processed a little quicker? What happens is that we turn in a house, and by the time they get around to do anything about it, the thing is really needs to be demolished. Is there any way that we can get to it before it is demolishable? One of the things that we've run into is that it seems uncanny that they can't find the owner. Mm-hmm. Is there any way that we can get that kind of thing straightened out?
You can find the owner deep enough.
Yeah, but then you can't. Then they've got several other people that are on the deed and all that kind of other stuff, and you never can get it all organized till the house is either fixed or torn down.
So, kind of what you're talking about is earlier intervention in these houses.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
Okay. I think that'd be a good one. Earlier intervention. Let's see. There was a gentleman back over here.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I rise to take the blindfold off the vision of justice. Just 2 blocks from here, we can walk to Capitol Iron Grounds. And if you're not careful, a deer might jump out on you. My question is, how can the code enforcement and how can the bureaucracy of the city, county, and state intimidate law-abiding homeowners doing the best they can do, and you allow that to be an eyesore so close to this building? Mm-hmm. The second part to that is I have difficulty accepting the response that we have a budgetary problem when we know, and most of us should know, if this nation has the audacity to go to Germany and require that the Berlin Wall be torn down, and then come back here a few years later and build a fence on the coast of Mexico in order to keep folk from coming in at $80 million, we need to stop and take a look at ourselves. Open that up, please.
So, kind of to your first point, you're really talking about consistency of application of the enforcement of.
To begin with, yes.
So, consistent enforcement is what you primarily be looking at there.
Okay. Are there any ideas on the on your sheet that intrigue you, that you want to see up on the wall and have yourselves vote for today? Because we really want to make sure they get up there if you think these are worth exploring more from the task force. LJ, sorry. You got the floor, Brad.
I think the 4th one on your list, all dilapidating houses identified and solutions to turn them around, would rank pretty high on my list.
Okay. So let's put that one up.
Okay, anything else?
All dilapidated housing identified and solutions for them.
Over here.
Bill's coming around. Hang on, guys.
Here he goes.
I'd like us to look at rental unit certification / inspection.
What is that?
That's the question I'd like to find out.
Does anybody know more about that idea that wants to elaborate on that?
Yes or no? Do we want more, less? What's the?
I think, yeah, exactly. That's why it's on there. What does it mean?
More.
More. I think we have that.
Infill housing, less infill housing?
Hold on. I'm sorry. Does anybody know about the rental certification? I do know. Yes.
I'm Dan Warner. I'm with the planning office. Just came over here from Lawrence, actually, and Lawrence has a rental licensing program. And basically, rental properties have to license themselves with the city every year and then get an inspection as part of that every year. So, and I think they just recently expanded it to every rental property in the city, basically. So, so it takes a good deal of manpower, but the basic principle is you register with the city so they know you have a rental, and then they go out and inspect it for basic building code and life safety issues.
Thank you, Dan. Do you have any more? Well, that's what we want to find out more, and from the task force, we'll look into that. If that's an idea, we got it up there? Oh, good. The rental certification. Brad, who's up?
This young lady right here. And then Miss Edwards in the back.
My concern is the boarded windows. I know that there are several properties, or at least a few properties over by First Street and Topeka Boulevard, right before you go across the bridge, that have been boarded up forever since I've been here. And I've been here since 1989, 88, and these same houses have been boarded up since then, and that's been almost 20-some years. I think 20-some years for boarded up houses is more than long enough for them to remain an eyesore.
So boarded up houses?
These seem to be problems. So how do we fix? We don't just want to identify more problems.
Right.
Right.
Maybe, well, of course, identifying the negligent landowners and really holding their feet to the fire to make sure that if they no longer have an interest in the housing that they have, to see if they're willing to let the city buy it back from them and use it for other alternatives instead of just letting it stay wasted space, basically.
I think, I know there's been an ordinance proposed in the city, it's not illegal to have boarded up windows. And I know we've looked at that at the planning commission level. So so Susie, it would be
Basically not allowing boarded up houses.
Right, prohibiting boarded up houses.
This is going back to the rental unit licensing and inspection. The cost of that would most likely be passed on to the people who are least able to afford it. Landlords typically would raise the rent.
That's great. Yes, we do want you to talk about any ideas, pros, cons, what you like. That's a great comment. Thank you.
And we had one back here and one up here, and then I think we're getting close to our time limit.
Yeah, we got a few more minutes, so.
I wasn't here for the first neighborhood summit, and I noticed on this sheet it has a list of ideas and priorities that were generated from that meeting. I suppose that there were solutions that were also generated there. Has that made any measurable difference? What has the city done with those first items that were brought up? I'm sorry I wasn't here for the first, so I'd just like to know what's happened as a result of that first meeting. And
As part of this neighborhood summit process, as we mentioned earlier, the first neighborhood summit kind of identified the problems. What we're here today is to begin identifying solutions because, we have ideas, but we don't have all the solutions. Some of the best ideas are going to come from this group of folks right in front of me. Going from there, and what we're going to be doing today, prioritizing these, and then this neighborhood task force that's been established is going to work on truly getting these things implemented. So that's kind of where we've been, where we're going with all this. Did I miss anything, Susie?
Oh.
Well, we did get a new website since then. We're trying to improve communication, so hopefully you can get familiar with that. We're doing more on City 4, and we are going to implement soon a sort of online 311. So it's like a one-stop shop for any concerns you have. So we are, and then the neighborhood task force, which we've developed. So it's not a quick fix. I mean, these things take a long time. So we're starting. So
We had Teresa.
Yes, I have a solution. It has to do with co-compliance. This is what I've been hearing through some of the people with the NIAs getting their heads together and talking. We would want to have some type of task force you have for like the neighborhood task force. We would like to have a task force for co-compliance because the co-compliance officers are so overwhelmed. They really are. They have too much on their plate. And if we could have this committee meet and we can discuss what's going on in our neighborhoods and give ideas, because right now co-compliance is broken, especially when it comes to commercial storage people. Their codes are different than for regular property. And so I'll use an example. McKinley School is being used for storage. It is being run down now. The building's starting to leak and that because they go by different rules, and I can't get co-compliance to do anything. So we need to work on the co-compliance rules itself also. But I'd like to see a committee to help co-compliance.
Thank you, Teresa. Gentleman in the green back here, and then we'll hit John, and then I think we're up.
Okay.
On a solution side, I think everyone would recognize that our senior citizens tend to have a problem maintaining property, either lack of energy or lack of funds. And I'm wondering if the city couldn't reach out to some of our faith-based churches and some other civic organizations, and volunteers could be available to help maintain yards and do some light handiwork.
Awesome.
It require coordination.
We already do that. We do that. When we make contact and we discover that that's the problem, we do reach out to those community members. We do have a list of people that come and volunteer. The Community Resource Council has a whole list of that, and see what we can do to do a better job of getting that out.
I just put that link on our website.
Yeah, okay.
It's under Living Here.
Yep, yeah, the link's there. And one of the things that we face as a problem is we go knock on the door and we say, hey, we've already cited you twice. We realize you can't afford it. Can we help you? And the answer is, I don't need the government telling me what to do. And I respect that. He's absolutely right, except he's got to stay in compliance. But we offer help continually. Some people take it, and some people refuse to take it because they don't want to be told what to do.
Let's hit John, and then I think we're ready.
Yeah, a common thread I see through all this, co-compliance, rental certification, dilapidated housing, is you need people to be able to go out and deal with those kind of things. And so we either have to figure out a way to find money in the budget for more people, or figure out a way, I think one gentleman had an idea, you use city workers a little differently, if possible. And maybe there's other ideas that I haven't thought about. Maybe we need to reach out more to faith-based communities or just community-based organizations. But we need to be thinking about that. We need more people. And be honest with you, when I hear, well, there's no money for it, we had money to put stickers on the water bottles. Okay? And so we need to figure out a way to make things happen. okay? And I'm willing to work, I'm on the task force, and I'm willing to work with anybody and everybody to figure that out. And I think a lot of folks are, but just want to let you know.
Thank you, John.
I see that as a problem.
I did that. I did all of them at home. All the time. I really did.
If we're moving into the next segment here, just a couple comments. I made another strategic error, and that is introducing the council members who are here today. So I want, if they would stand, Elaine Schwartz is back here, is in District 7, Southwest Topeka, elected in April. Nathan Schmidt is District 8, the newest. You had a vacancy in that council district, and he was just chosen here several weeks ago, so we're very glad to have him here. And over here in the back is Michelle de la Isla from District 5. Interesting. Some of our newer council members are here. I know I did hear from several other council members who had engagements and were going to be out of town or could not be here. So certainly those are people that you want to be acquainted with, even if you don't live in our districts, but talk to them so they understand. And I just want to say, I think good ideas. And I think some of these things, particularly about the boarding of the houses, permits for rental units, I think we should act on and get it out. And so we have a document that we can start considering. So that's good. We'll move on.
Thank you, Mayor. And we turn it over to, we're tackling parks now.
Do you want to? One last?
There you go.
Sorry.
Not a problem. I forgot.
Is there any? We're moving on to parks. Is there any last ideas from the sheet that you want to see up here, real quickly? Can you go?
Brad, I just want a little bit of clarification. At the task meeting 2 weeks ago, unless I misunderstood the statement by Monique, there are actually only 3 code compliance officers literally operating in Topeka, along with Patty Burkholder picking up some of the slack. And the reason for that, and again, if I misunderstood, I need to be corrected. There used to be 6 and Patty Burkholder. Consequently, is there literally just 3 officers now out in the field and Patty Burkholder picking up the slack? And then my follow-up solution to that would be to the council people that are here. Usually the response that I get about code compliance is lack of funding. Well, I was kind of suggested to me that we needed to go to the council and say to them, give us the funding to get more people. Well, thank you for being here, council, because I'm asking you. I had planned to go to your council meeting this week. I didn't get to, but that was going to be one of my issues is why aren't you, the council, the city administration, providing funding for more code compliance officers to help address these specific problems that are there around the property maintenance housing issues? So my suggestion is to the council is provide the funding for more code compliance officers, along with all of these suggestions that have been put before you. Thank you.
Bill, I'm going to address your first question because I'm the one that made the statement, and I made the statement in error. There are 6 plus Patty Burkholder. Okay, so I'm going to address the first one.
Why is it our responsibility to go to the council, to city administration for that question? It's city administration responsibility, and that's, we're the taxpayers. We give you the money, we pay the taxes that you ask for. You should provide the staff to provide the services that we're paying for.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. We are going to move on to our next topic, which is a little different. And let me just explain that Parks, behind me, Parks showed up as one of the top priorities from the first summit, with obvious reason. how valuable the parks are to our neighborhoods. That nobody would argue with that. What we have since then is that with county parks has hired a consultant to develop a master plan for the county parks, including neighborhood parks. They are going through a process now. The task force that we have, our neighborhood task force, probably would be plugged in, or whoever wants to be plugged into their process to come up with the solutions through that master plan. So there's an actual ongoing process now. I don't know if I see Bill Rapon is here from County Parks. I don't know if you just want to touch upon that, Bill. I know there's some dates already set up to have focus groups, but whatever you could tell us would help.
That's right. They've hired Leon Younger, who is going to be doing the master plan. And in orchestrating something like that, they generally, there's parts of the process where they ask for public input. They have stakeholders. They talk to elected officials and staff. And so as this process comes forward, you'll probably be seeing this. I don't know how they generally contact different people and advertise for public comments and things like that. But generally that's part of the process of a master plan. So I think this is something you'll be seeing in the coming months. And so, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Bill. I know there's 11 focus group a number of focus groups that are going to be set up. They're looking for people to be involved on those focus groups. There will be public meetings as well, but if you want to be, if you've signed in today, we are sending your names to them so they can contact you. If you want to be part of that process even more, please let me know afterwards or indicate on the sign-in sheet, please, and I will make sure that your names get transferred over to Terry Birtles at the Parks Department of the county. So just be aware of that's going on. Does anybody, so for our purpose today, since the task force is not something, since we're kind of plugging us into that system, into that process, is there anything people want to elaborate about the parks before we move on? Solutions, ideas about our parks. Yes.
Just a question. I think a lot of people don't fully understand the division of labor between the city and the county. The Parks Department is sort of unified now, but apparently the city still is responsible for some of the tree trimming aspects of it, and the county does other things. Could that be clarified?
The city takes care of, we still have a forestry department in Public Works, and so they will take care of the rights of way, the street trees, some of the medians. That will be still the city. That is still the city. But in general, yes, all the park land is now maintained by the county. That is true.
We had a suggestion then that I would have would be that if somebody calls up, I don't think you should expect the citizens necessarily to know who to call, whether the job is the city's to trim a tree or it's the county's. There ought to be the people who are trained to answer the phone and deal with issues about trees down or trees in parks or trees overhanging the city streets. There ought to be interdepartmental communication about that, and the citizen who calls to ask about it shouldn't be the one who has to be given the runaround on who he should be calling.
Right. So the solution there is to have coordination or a point person, a single point of contact to coordinate parks maintenance, so the citizens do not have to figure out if it's county or city maintained green space. Okay. Frank.
On the Parks and Rec there, one of the solutions I think we could do would be for the neighborhoods to adopt a park in their neighborhood for cleanup and maintenance and stuff like that. We had talked to Mr. Knight once about the park in our neighborhood, and we never had anybody get back with us for sure on that. One thing I'd like to say is our meeting here is about half over probably, and I have been hearing a lot about what we want somebody else to do for our neighborhoods, and it seems like one thing I haven't heard so far is what can the neighborhood do to help itself? You know, not asking, what can everybody else do to help us, but what can we do to help get the neighborhood up?
It's a good point. I know when the parks were, we dealt with some of them at the city level back then, and having neighborhoods step up to take care of them. I know there was some there were some success stories there as well. Some of the maintenance within the neighborhood. So that can happen. Ma'am.
One of the solutions I have for parks and the prioritizing of those would be for those neighborhood groups who have already established partnerships to clean up or create a park, that they get the funding priority from the city or county, whoever does that, to develop or to improve that park. But I think partnerships and that engagement process of the people that live around it, very, very important. But you have to have the city involved, you have to have the county involved, you have to have all sorts of environmental people possibly involved, suppliers and people who do that equipment. And when you have that kind of engagement of all those partners, then the solution will be something that neighborhood will sustain because they have ownership of the issue and of the solution. If you don't have that, then you're just putting money into something and it's nice, but the neighborhood needs to care, as you pointed out very, very well, that it's what can we do? We are the people, we live there, we're the ones benefiting from it. How can we assist? So prioritize that as a priority. If you have those partnerships and you want to create or sustain a park, that gets the funding priority from the county.
So I think it's sort of a build off of the last comment, which is neighborhoods adopt a park, that the residents become partners in that process. So, okay.
And those parks that have the neighborhood that has adopted them get funding preference. She was very clear about the Monty.
Okay.
Yeah, priority goes to those.
Oh, gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Like an
So,
incentive?
okay.
Like an incentive.
But I mean, I think if you're looking at prioritizing limited funds, what as a funder, and I work for the Federal Home Loan Bank, so we fund grants for all sorts of things. We look to see how best to invest our money. So we're going to look to see what kinds of partnerships communities have created to do the project they're doing. And when we see that, when we see the involvement of community, and that could be from the state, it could be the federal level, it could be the local level, it could be citizens contributing their time or their expertise. But when we see that, we know that there's ownership of the issue and there's ownership of the solution. And as a funder, we would put our money into that because it's going to sustain itself for a longer term.
Thank you. All right, we need to move on to the next topic. If there's one more thing about you want to get on the park side, but be aware that you are going to be involved if you want to be in the master plan for the county parks in their input. If not, okay, Teresa, yeah.
I'm not for sure how to say this. I have a park in my area, and it's taken me a month to get somebody to call me back with the park department. I had to go to my county commissioner to even get them to make them call me back. As I've been told, they are cutting back because they don't have the funds that they had before. They're removing flowers from parks. They're not doing all the things they've done before in parks. My small park was one of them that lost the flowers and some other things, and it's not being kept up as well. So they're working on it, as I was told. But I've also tried to volunteer when we first started taking over the park and trying to make it better about 5 years ago. I offered to trim because we have a neighbor next to this park that doesn't want the city to touch his property. So I volunteered to trim, and I was told to leave it to the parks. So I left it to the parks. But so you're going to have to get permission from the park people if you want to go and volunteer, because there might be a situation you don't know about legally, and so you would really need to have that permission first.
Thank you. Next. All right, we're going to move on to our next topic, which is communication. So take a look at those ideas. Who is facilitating? Susan.
Hi, my name's Susan Gelvin. I'm a planner with the City of Topeka. I've been able to work with some of the neighborhoods since I've started, so I recognize a few faces, but it's great seeing everybody turn out to come up with ideas for solutions on how we can address these problems. So, over the communication part of this, we came up with 4 main topics that were coming up from the first summit. The first was more communication with the NIAs, improve neighborhood connections, better communication with city government, and help neighborhood groups communicate with their members and recruit new members. So these are the problems that were identified. If anybody, we'll open the floor for anybody with solutions to this.
As a member of a very active NA, Neighborhood Association, we'd sure like to be included too.
Definitely.
Not just the NIAs.
Agreed. Well, and that was one of the points with the summit is, and granted I just wrote down NIAs because that was what the suggestion was, but we do want to include the neighborhood associations and those neighborhoods that don't have associations formed yet. So.
Well, it's all neighborhood groups. The information that would be communicated to NIAs, I think, is a little different. It might be a little different than NAs. So I think that was the focus of that one, but we can just do all. But LJ, let me ask you this. Improve communication with all neighborhood groups. How?
I get with it eventually.
I guess a starting point on my list of extremely irritating behaviors by city staff is they could start by returning our phone calls.
Okay. So better communication with phones. Email is also. All right, thank you. Next. Got the mic in the back. We will work forward for everybody.
I get a water bill every month. That's maybe I don't have an NIA in my neighborhood. Put something in those that I can read that tells me what's the population of this town, and there's only 60-some people sitting here. So maybe it's the lack of knowing what's going on.
Okay, thank you. So I'm hearing use the water bills as a form of communication that people are getting. Thank you.
I think some of the NIAs are too large. An NIA that has over 1,500 addresses within its boundaries, there's no way that one NIA can have that large, has the same issues. What happens on the west end of that NIA may be entirely different than what's happening in the central part of that NIA. I think the boundaries need to be redrawn.
Okay.
My suggestion is, and I know that there's probably a lot of people in this room and there's still a lot of people in the city that aren't tuned in digitally, but we need to figure out some way to bridge the gap between the digital and the non-digital people, because a lot of stuff happens online these days, and we need to make more online resources available and to also maybe streamline some of the online resources so people don't have to go to a million different places to find the information that they're looking for.
Have you checked out our new website?
I have not checked out the new website yet. I just got back from New York like this week, and so I'm still playing catch up on my regular activities, so to speak, but no, I have not checked it out yet.
Would there be a specific way, you mentioned more communication or bridging the gap between, the mail media and then what's online? Any suggestions on locations or how to do that? How could we reach the people we can't reach online?
Well, a lot of people have smartphones now, and there's a thing called a QR code, and people can scan those QR codes and bring up the city websites instantaneously on their smartphones. So they've got basically a one-point touch access to everything that they can access on their smartphones.
Okay, so not necessarily more.
Where would that QR code be?
QR code generators can be found online.
No, where do you want the code?
Where would you put it? Well, like they said with the water bill, you could put a QR code on the water bills. You could put a QR code on the city website, because people can scan their smartphone. They can stick it up to the computer screen and scan the QR code from their computer screen.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Fred.
I have a solution there on that, keeping the NIAs and NAs informed on what's going on. Right now, when we have a meeting, we have a representative from the police department informs us what's going on. We have one from code compliance. A while back, we had a meeting with the city manager. One of the ideas we came up with was if they could get it funded, was one person, a representative from the city manager's office that worked strictly with the NIAs and NAs. That's all he did. You know, he prioritized the meetings, went to the meetings that were most important, kept the NIAs informed about what's going on, about grants and different stuff that they could get. I don't know if he wants to make a comment on that or not.
Thank you, appreciate that. We agree with that, but we think that position is even bigger than that, that in addition to being the communication valve between the NIAs and various staffs, that they would actually be the ombudsman to make sure that you don't run into the boundary walls that exist between departments. But also I think there's an opportunity for this person to build volunteer capacity that can come to help. One of our goals in code compliance is to work towards voluntary compliance as quickly as possible, as opposed to going through a regulatory environment. So we see this position as being very important. You stated very correctly, while we want to make a move in that direction, and we've been working on it for a couple of months in terms of defining, I'm not that bad. And we've been working very hard in terms of looking at what the capacity is within the city, what resources are available, who's doing what. We certainly don't want to step on somebody else's toes if we need to improve performance or reevaluate how somebody does their job. So we're taking a very comprehensive look at this. At the same time, we are dealing with some serious budget issues, and we need to make sure that we address this. But I believe very firmly that one of the most important things that we can do in this city is to provide a higher level of service to the neighborhoods. Hence, we're sitting here today, and we've had a lot of focus on the neighborhoods. So hear you and are continuing to work that. Are these all from me, or did I?
I was just going to make a quick suggestion. Being on the task force, maybe it might be easier if someone is having a difficult time getting a hold of a city person. There's a published list maybe on the website so that they can get a hold of a person to be that kind of like, because we can get a hold of a few people in the city being on the task force, so that we may be able to call and say, hey, so-and-so is trying to get a hold of you. Can you please at least return their call and let them know kind of what the status of this is? Because I'm not suggesting that we take over and be the voice of every person with a concern, but more like a conduit, I guess.
I'm going to give you guys all the mayor's personal cell phone number. No, but look, that, by the way, was very funny. Seriously, call my office. And the more we deal with the people in the city, I'm talking to the employees in the city, these guys work really hard. And I get that call from people, hey, I tried to reach so-and-so and they're just not returning the phone call. And I'll call them, and sometimes there's a reasonable excuse. Sometimes it's just that I didn't get to it. I really feel bad about that. But I guarantee you, if you call my office, we will make sure that your concern and your question gets dealt with as quickly as possible. So we set up the constituent services office. We didn't set up, we just continued it. But with Monique Glaudet, she's been doing a very good job. My office is committed to doing that. And so I think if we've done some things well, we've done some things that we've tried maybe haven't gone as well as they need to. But I think one of the areas that we're really doing well is having an expeditious response to concerns. So I still want you to call the departments, give them the chance to resolve it. But if they don't resolve it, certainly don't hesitate to contact my office. I don't know. I don't know. I'll get it.
To address the budgetary concerns about getting that person to do that liaison bit, I'll put a plug in, and it's a suggestion. Call Washburn University and look into the AmeriCorps Vista program, of which I am one. And what you're trying to do for the city, I do for the state. And so I work for the African American Affairs Commission, and so I travel the state doing this in neighborhoods for African American equity. And so, if we can do this at a scale that covers the state, certainly, building the capacity for volunteers and getting these kinds of things done for the city under major budgetary constraints could certainly be an option for the city of Topeka. Hey, call Judy. She'll answer you.
I was thinking about how to reach people who don't necessarily look at websites. And I like the QR code. That's a good idea. But not everybody has a smartphone, obviously. And maybe you already do this, but maybe do outreach with the senior centers. And you may already do that. And another idea I had, I don't know how feasible it would be, is work with Meals on Wheels to get information out to people.
Okay.
And things like that, because a lot of times they're going to, I'm old enough that I may print something off and read it. Okay, and so a lot of times they're going to want to look at hard copy anyway.
Okay. So work more with, like you said, the senior centers, Meals on Wheels. AAA, just other places to get library to get media out there. Very good, thank you.
All right, I think we got time for one or two more. One.
I'll make it brief. I think all these ideas that are under communication are very good ideas, but I would suggest that you have a time certain for it. A call to the city should be responded to within, say, the end of the business day or in 24 hours. Using the water bills may be a great way to communicate. Okay, maybe 3 months, we want to have that done, but establish a timeline so you can see what you said earlier about results-based. I think that's what we all want to see. And if we begin to see that, we will be less fractious when we come to meetings.
Very good. All right, so and he's been waving at me.
Last one.
Is there any way that the city council can recognize the neighborhoods that have accomplished something during the month or something like that, so that they could be identified as really putting their self into it and getting some things done? I think if they get a little credit, they might be more inclined to do more.
I appreciate that. In fact, one of the challenges that I threw out to Brad Reef and his team is to make sure that we are aware of some of the things that our are currently being done or have been done, so that during the presentation section we can identify that. And I think that conversation was about a week ago, so I anticipate that we'll have the first one very quickly. And as I don't want to speak for the mayor, but I know the mayor is very interested in taking a look at the way we do business as a city, how we process it, what are some more effective things that we can do, and I know that he's going to be driving a conversation in that. So if that opportunity is, if we're able to identify a way that we can bring this as a council item of interest or discussion point, that would be good too. So thank you very much. I'm scared. I was told there were no more questions, so.
Oh, so we'll put the website. I think we have one more comment. We have to move on from there to public safety. Monique Lade, did you want to explain kind of what we're doing with our communication?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm going to give you my phone number. I first wanted to address the lovely lady's comment. When you call me, within 48 hours, I call you back. And I think that I can see about 10 or 15 people in here that I have worked with personally since I've been in the position for the last 8 months. So once you call me, I will return your phone call. We'll identify what your concern is, and I'll find you a solution. So my number is 368-4470. I'm the only Monique in the city of Topeka, so even if you call the wrong number, they'd be glad to transfer you. Oh, you got it right there. Thank you. Okay. On the website, I'm under the city manager's tab or web page as well. So please feel free to call me, and I'll help you do whatever it needs to be done.
I validate that Monique does.
Bless you. And ma'am, what's your name so I can buy you some flowers?
That's Monique. We didn't get that actually on a microphone, so it may not have ever existed. Okay, we need to move on to public safety, which is our next topic. We're going to bring up Rosanna Haugen from HND, Housing and Neighborhood Development, to facilitate. And here she is.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Rosanna Haugen. I do know several of you out here in the crowd, and I work with Housing and Neighborhood Development, and I am the Community Resource Manager for that office. And basically, in a nutshell, I work with a lot of the neighborhood groups, NIAs, NAs, providing resource to a lot of you out there. So my segment for today is public safety. And it appears that at the Summit 1, a lot of people came up with these issues. Community policing officers, being able to walk the streets safely day or night, neighborhood watch in every neighborhood, and better lighting. So it's open to all of you out there for solutions.
I think it would help community policing relationships with my neighborhood in particular if the officers were assigned to us for a longer period of time. We barely get to know them before they're gone.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Longevity for community police officers. A longer rotation.
Like longer shifts?
No, longer rotation.
Longer stay in each neighborhood.
Think so.
Okay, who is next? I got an easy category.
Regarding the lighting, my understanding is the reason we don't have street lights a lot of places is the cost of maintaining them. Is that correct? The lights, the electricity, am I right? Okay. If I'm wrong, tell me. Well, I'm thinking, I don't know how you go about this, but we probably need to work with Westar to figure out a way to either get a reduced rate. I mean, one of the biggest things that you can do to help a neighborhood be safer is have adequate lighting.
Mm-hmm.
What about solar?
Well, that's another option. Solar. Yeah, whatever it takes to bring the cost down and make it happen, because that's just a huge need.
Mm-hmm.
And
Good ideas. Yeah, thanks. I think it was Fred and then the gentleman, or was it the gentleman in the back?
Well, the solution for the lighting is that we have neighborhoods over where we live. We have people that bought brand new homes in the last 10 years. No street lighting. You know, they were promised when they bought houses, you're going to have street lights and everything. Well, the builder went bankrupt. The city doesn't have the money to do it. Westar doesn't want to do it. One of the solutions that came up years ago, and it's not a real popular solution with some people, but was to have the developer put the lights in. You're not the city, not Westar, but the developer installed all the street lights. And I don't know what happened to that. It came up to the city council and stuff one time, but I guess they got talked out of it. But
Okay,
to
but
me,
if
that
the-
would be a solution to have the developer and the builder put the lights in.
Okay, you're saying when they put in, before they put in the house,
When they
or
put-
when they're
whenever-
done with the,
Whenever they do it, but when they put in the subdivision, they install the street lighting.
You're correct. That idea did come up several years ago. It went to the planning commission and the rule was that the developer was responsible to put in the lighting when they built the subdivision. And you're right, it did die. I don't know if it got to council or not. It has to come out of the planning commission. I don't remember if it ever did or not. But I just want to make sure, yes, you're correct, and that idea was there, and it's still a good idea to look at. Thank you.
With the multiplicity of issues that we are discussing today, my question is why there is not an ombudsman division within the city and or county?
Thank you for the question. The question I answered before about the neighborhood liaison, we see that role as being ombudsman and neighborhood coordination plus the volunteer capacity builder. So we do view that as an important position, and that's one of the primary roles that position that we're trying to fund and identify right now would be.
I am Anna Mae Wright from Jefferson Square. We do not have any meetings because no one will respond. And next door to me, I have a handicapped person with all the legs off. And the next house is, no one is living there, and it is not safe. No lights on the back of the house or nothing. So I would like to know what we can do about that in our neighborhood, and also we need your number.
my number?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Mrs. Wright, I had the wonderful opportunity to speak to your husband 2 times, and one of the I gave your husband a response, a message 2 times to inform him. Well, he's so kind, I know, and he's such a gentleman. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I didn't know that. But here's the message I gave him twice because you called me, I called back. The house is on the demolition list. Okay. So as soon as they're demolished, I don't know what number it is, but it's on the demolition list. Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Miss Wright, Susie did put my phone number up there. I don't know if you can. It's 368-3663.
My, this is more a statement to city council than to city staff, is that so many of these things, we just mentioned the lighting and the cost of all of these solutions. I would like to let the council know that it is not their job to save us money, that they should ask us if we want to spend the money on these things, because most of us do. Don't make the assumption that we do not want to spend the money.
I don't know if the community of Topeka understands how many staff from our police department have been cut or lost over the last few years. It's huge. And so I'm asking that that kind of information be easily accessed, that there be public education about what we've already given up when we consolidated parks, one of the issues that people did not speak about very much was the fact that already millions of dollars had been taken from our park budget, and we really needed to do that consolidation for efficiency and to make an equity and to make the most of what we had. And I feel the same way about police. We need, first of all, for our public to understand our huge losses over years in money and personnel in our very fine police department. And then secondly, take a look at the appropriateness, or if there would be efficiency, by combining city-county police.
Okay. All right, thank you.
To address public safety, I think that people will, especially if crime is involved, that people who have ownership in their neighborhood probably tend not to want to see crime or participate in crime just as well. And on the maps that may have the intense areas, these are areas of the city that doesn't have a lot of neighborhood cohesiveness. There's not a lot of activity and action going on in their neighborhood, so it can lead to despair that nothing is happening. Whether it's Central or West Topeka, people may see that, but it's not seen in parts of the city. So I think that this is a great step as far as the partnership, as far as city trying to work with individual groups within these neighborhoods so that they can be a part of, seeing that they're a part of the neighborhood. That means training programs, and I think that falls into some of the other ideas that will come on to try to get people who have given up hope about the future, about what's going to be going on in the, as we move forward.
Okay, thank you. We're going to take a couple more. I have two people who are sitting up here and right here, Frank and
We tried to get. We tried. Put that in my ear.
Yeah.
We tried to get streetlights in our neighborhood, and the problem was that there were too many trees. Apparently you have to run the line through the parking area.
Frank, put the mic to your.
On the street.
Use your other hand
it
to
works
wave.
better that way.
Yeah, it does.
But you can get the lights in your alley for I think $7 a month, and that converts all the traffic through your alley, and then you can see them going through the alley. But it might solve some of the problems, or else get some of the limbs on the trees on the street trimmed back so that people can, so some of that light comes through, or
Right.
even have the neighborhoods encourage the people to turn their front porch lights on at night. That also works
Exactly.
pretty good.
Okay, I think, yeah.
One thing that I wanted to add on and I'm sorry, this is going back to communication. There is a group on Facebook called Topeka Neighborhood Associations, and we have a few people in the room that are part of that group, but that's where some of us have decided to put information for everybody in the NIAs and NAs together. And I know there are some pages for some of the different NAs and NIAs in town, but I would offer to put, if you could put that up there on one of the pieces of paper, to make that as a resource available to everybody in this room. The Topeka Neighborhood Association's Facebook group.
Ooh, I'm not going to let that go without saying we have our own Topeka Neighborhoods Facebook page.
I know, but put both of them up because some people may plug it in differently, I guess.
Yours is neighborhood.
Topeka Neighborhood Associations. And you can put me down as a contact to get in touch with, to get to join it.
Okay.
Because I am the moderator, administrator. And that's Joe, Joe.
Okay. Anybody else? I think we're letting it. Oh, we did have him right there too.
I've got a pretty big concern, and it's not just Chesney Park, it's the whole city. And it has to do with children running out in the street, parents not paying attention to where their kids are. And this is day, and sometimes wee hours, 9, 10 o'clock at night. And people need to know in the neighborhoods and say something, or because the police are stretched thin. But the last thing we need to do, like happened out there at 31st or whatever it was in Indiana a while back, is have a child hit. And some parents don't know where the kids are, and they're just running in the neighborhoods. So this is getting to be quite a serious thing.
Any suggestions on that or solutions?
Well, besides parents paying attention, but if I don't know, the kids will probably say, well, you can't tell me what to do. But get the word to somebody, and if you have to call the police to get on the kids, and because they don't tend to pay attention, and they'll just run out.
Okay. All right. I think that's, Nikki? Yeah, real quick, and then we got to move on.
This is partly for communication and public safety. Every quarter there's a quarterly crime stat meeting at the police department, and there's not too many faces here that I see there. They offer it in the afternoon and also at 6:30 of the evening. If this information could go out to people so they could get it on their calendars early, I believe it's on July 17th coming up. Also, I get the city alerts as to what goes on around town, and I'm not for sure how to, tell people to get to that. Like the latest one was on the fireworks, safety tips, and, the rules, the laws about fireworks within the city of Topeka, and alerts when we've got children missing within the city. If you could explain to everybody how to get to that, I think communication would be a big key.
It sounds like you got onto our website and e-subscribed for some things, which we have really awesome resources online, lots of things you can sign up to get notified about. When you talked about those quarterly crime meetings, we're putting those on Facebook. We have press releases go out, so they're on our website. And so if you sign up to get our news releases, which you can on the website, then you can know about everything that's going on. And we put those on our community calendar, and I'll think about ways to improve, to boost those messages getting out.
All right, we really have to move on. There was one idea. We have to go on to the other ideas. There was one idea on the paper about in the public safety that I didn't hear anybody talk about. Just want to make sure if you want it up there, neighborhood watch in every neighborhood. Any comment real quickly? There you go.
I think a lot of the basis of public safety is building relationships neighbor to neighbor.
So should it be a solution that you want the task force to look at how we can do that?
Yes.
Okay. You good, Susie? Okay. We're going to move on. Other ideas. We had our 4 big ones, 4 topics, but we know there's some others. We wanted to leave some room to hear those. We have some of those written down. Warren Woodruff from Housing and Neighborhood Development is going to facilitate that section. Warren.
Good morning, folks. I promise I won't break into song. At the first summit, there were several objects, discussion topics, complaints about the city that didn't quite fit neatly into our other categories that we've discussed so far. And they are skills training centers in our neighborhoods, more modern infrastructure, particular maybe sewers, storm drains, revised ordinances for our neighborhoods, and getting the faith-based community groups more involved at helping with solutions within our neighborhoods. And because these topics are so diverse, I think it's best if we can maybe work on these one at a time at examining them. We know we have issues, and this is your opportunity to come up with some solutions. So let's look at the first ones, the skills training centers in our neighborhood. What suggestions, ideas, concepts do you have that could help establish those programs, fund those programs, and what type of programs do you think we need?
Well, I'm just going to go on record as saying that I would volunteer to work with Susie to help bridge the gap between the digital and the non-digital people in the city. So,
Next suggestion.
I think that when it was mentioned, it was having the centers in the low-income communities because this is where a lot of the chronic unemployment and opportunity needs to be. So just want to sort of make a clarification on that. As far as funding, I think that it's not just about the funding from the city's perspective. There's other type of federal dollars and state dollars that are already there to support helping people get paying for their certifications, their tools, stipends and things of that nature there. By sitting down and focusing on all of the other financial and other resources, I think there's not just a way of providing the training for people so that they can get the skills to get a job, but part of that work could entail dealing with the housing maintenance of the dilapidated properties and being some of that flexible type of labor that the city doesn't have the budget. It's not just the city's budget that you have to really look at. There's other areas of monies, even with budget cuts at the state and federal level, that have always been available. It's just that people are not exploring those opportunities and putting together where they are working together.
So if I'm understanding correctly, one of the solutions would be to look for all sorts of funding opportunities, federal, state, private sectors, and creating these training centers in the LMI community for areas that involve everything from home maintenance to even potential job opportunities for individuals that are involved in the training.
Yes, and you really don't have to look for it. It's already there.
already there.
Putting it on the table, and that's really under the concept of transitional jobs, which has been one of the only proven ways of moving the chronic low unemployed to at least entering the workforce at an entry-level position.
Okay. I think we're getting that one down. Next suggestions on this topic of training centers.
I unfortunately wasn't able to be here for the first summit, and you might have already mentioned it, but I'm thinking maybe talk with Washburn Tech to partner with them on, and some of the local businesses around here to find out what do they need, what kind of skills do they need, and work with them on that. And if we're talking about things besides just job training, I would suggest we include maybe possibly, I'm not sure what you call it, like a citizens academy for teenagers, basically, so they can learn some of the things that the city does and the state and federal government. I mean, a lot of times I don't know enough about our government, okay? And I know they don't. And just help them become citizens and understand what's going on.
So partnering with existing training facilities such as Washburn Tech, and also creating a Young Citizens Academy to let them know about the city government, state government, and being a citizen within our community.
Yeah, and also talking to the businesses about what kind of training, what kind of skills do they need. I'll be right back.
Okay, and working with our, work better with our local businesses at establishing what their needs are.
One of the big problems is a lot of these things already exist, but it's transportation. In the lower income neighborhoods, there is no transportation. So that's, I think, a big issue with a lot of it.
We've got a problem now. If I could dive into that just a little bit more detailed, what type of solutions do you see for that problem? How can we go about getting transportation to those communities?
Well, provide transportation for, we've got the VOTEC out there, but some of the kids in our neighborhood cannot get out there physically. There's nobody to take them. There's the bus system, but they don't have the money for the bus. So, or even know how to use the bus. So it's just, there's some education, there's some funding. I mean, that's one possibility. It could be, I don't know.
Okay. So the suggestion was to increase the number of bus routes to certain areas of town during these training times at the different sites across our LMI neighborhoods or wherever these training centers are established. And potentially even creating a transportation system at the same time that we establish these training centers so that they're incorporated from the very beginning.
This is all great. We can sit downtown and come up with great solutions, but my solution is go into some of these neighborhoods and ask the people whose lives are actually being affected by these suggestions, what do they want and what do they actually need from us? And then we can better articulate, okay, now that we've heard from you, what exactly is it we can do for you and how can we best put the resources that are already out here, that are already existing, that are already there to bear to really help you? Because, I mean, if the resources are there, the classes are there, and everything's there, but you can't get to it, you can't access it, then what have we actually created for them? Just saying.
If I may, we have a few more moments before we have to start voting. Warren's going to finish this up, try to get a couple more ideas up there, other solutions. In the meantime, I'm going to pass out your voting dots. Just take one and pass it to the next person. Hopefully everybody will get one. There should be a strip of 5 voting dots, but keep talking. Sorry.
I would like to suggest that we use the high schools because they're in the neighborhood. I'm on the advisory committee for Highland Park, and I don't want to commit Dr. New, but there's some ways we can do that because they're used to going to the schools. I have found oftentimes the reason people don't take part, they don't feel welcome. So if we would go to some of the things like we're talking to the neighbors and ask the question, what can we do to help you? And you show up there when they get there, they're going to feel like they're welcome. Language barriers, education barriers are what we're all dealing here with. Thank you for the opportunity. And I want to compliment all of the city workers that are taking their time today to be here to help us. They've all got a life, and they came to join us to do this.
For the sake of time, we've got this topic still going, but why don't we go ahead and open up discussions on infrastructure, revising any city ordinances regarding neighborhoods, and involving the faith-based community, and start throwing some of those suggestions out too, so that we can try to catch as many topics today as we can.
I still had a comment on that training facilities. I have my own business, and I'm with P&Q Enterprise. I have a salvage yard, and I deal with a lot of people in East Topeka community, and I deal with a lot of guys that's been incarcerated that has come out, and they're looking for training opportunities to try to get a job and to try to get out here and support their kids. There's a lot of these guys that got child support and in and out of court, but they don't have the training facilities and don't have the transportation to get around, because a lot of them has already violated their driving privileges, and they just don't know how they can be able to get to one side of town when we don't have anything on the east side of town for that training facility. So I'm willing to work with some people to try to do whatever we can, because I'm getting a lot of static from a lot of my own people, especially young black men in our community that needs this help. So I'm going to reach out and do the best I can with this training facility, and I'm 100% wanting to back that up.
Appreciate that. If I heard correctly then, is that you really believe and want to emphasize the need for these training facilities, if not within close proximity to the different neighborhoods, at least establishing them so that it makes it easier for those folks to travel to those training facilities. Other ideas, topics?
Well, I just would like to direct comment to if they're still here, the city council people, they may not be here anymore. But one of the common themes that seems to run through all of these areas of concern is lack of sufficient funding. And I think that means that we don't have a sufficient tax base in the community to support the kind of facilities and opportunities that we would like to have. And so for the city council, I think a lot of attention needs to be paid to growth opportunities, to grow the tax base in the community, to attract businesses that can make the community grow. When I first came to this community in the 1960s, Topeka and Lincoln, Nebraska, both being capital cities and both having a lot of other things in common, were the same size, about 100,000 people. Now today, Topeka's actually lost a little population, and Lincoln, Nebraska is 250,000 people and continuing to grow. So what our city council might be asking the question, what is Lincoln doing that we aren't doing? Because money is the answer to a lot of the needs. And the only way you can get money is to grow your tax base.
Do you have some suggestions on how to grow that tax base for us?
Well, yeah, I think that the city should stop spending so much money on urban sprawl. A lot of the money on street repairs is being done on areas way on the periphery of Topeka, while the areas that many of us that are here today live in are allowed to deteriorate. And so unless the city can make the heart of the city grow, you can't make people interested in coming here to do business.
So what you're saying is really smart growth would be the way that we should proceed in the future.
Well, you can summarize it any way you want, but I don't think it's the job of the people here today to provide the answers for where the growth is going to come from. But the way we spend the money that we have, if we spend it on the periphery of the city and create sprawl so that it makes it that much more difficult for people to get from one place to the other, Lawrence is a good example of a city that has remained compact. Topeka is a good example of a city that has sprawled, and that means you're going to waste a lot of money in transportation and other problems.
Thank you. I think we've got time for one more.
I'd like to make a suggestion on the idea of infrastructure modernization. I think that there should be a lot better coordination between the utility, people who look after the utilities and those who build roads. That would be a suggestion to address that problem. We've all seen newly paved roads with water main breaks, which then have to be repaired. So to me, that's an important consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you, Warren. Okay, this is the moment of truth. We appreciate all the comments, suggestions, ideas. Thanks for trying to develop those more. Susie's done her best to capture those up here under each of the major topics. I think I can read her handwriting for the most part. If you have any trouble, we'll be up here to help. Staff will be up here to help explain anything or read. Here's how it works, and we want you to stick around. We're going to give you about 10 minutes to get up here and vote, and then if you could take your seat afterwards, we will talk about the next steps, as well as you can then also see what the priorities were out of this meeting. So here's how it works. You have 5 dots. You can use those dots in any way you want. You can put 5 dots all on neighborhoods adopt a park, or you can put 1 on them. You could put them all, so any mix them, match them, or put them all on one idea that you want. try to put them as close to the idea as possible without covering up the words. But if you could do that, I think it'll work. Okay, so now's your time to come on up and start voting, and we'll meet you back here in about 8 or 9 minutes. Has everybody voted? I'll take that as a yes. We need you to find your seats. We're going to wrap up. Use that bad boy. We have vote counters furiously tallying up the votes. If we could find a seat, we will wrap up. Monique. Vote early, vote often. All right. Are you ready? Monique, are you ready? Okay, all right. Okay, looks like we have much of the tallying completed. I don't know if there's any hanging chads, but we will double check. Susie, Rosanna, do you see any winners, big winners, couple of them? I see.
Oh, thank you. In first place, provide more funding for code enforcement. Second place, develop code compliance committee. And the training centers in low-income neighborhoods is third. So there's your top three. So we'll put all of these online for you, and these will go to the neighborhood task force as priorities.
Thank you. So let's talk about that. Yes, we're gonna put all these online. We'll give those out to you and let everybody see what the results were. As I said, this sets the agenda for the task force and their priorities. I want to bring up Monique Lade one more time to kind of tell you what the expectation is for the next steps after this meeting, in particular with the task force process.
Thanks, Bill. Well, first of all, thank you definitely for your time and spending your time with me this morning. Talking about the next steps, I'm going to give you a couple of fillers in what's taking place. Sometime this fall, and I don't have an exact date for you, but we will be implementing the E311 system. And what that is, it's a customer relationship management system, and it will allow you to, you have several options. You either can still call in and speak with a city employee about a concern. You either can go on the web and put in your concern as well as you're able to email us, whichever it is that would be more convenient for you. But the great thing about the system is that it's live, it immediately updates, and every conversation and any dialogue in regards to that is held in one location, one place, as well as it's going to prompt you to provide us with some basic information, your name, contact information, and an email address. And therefore, any activity that takes place will automatically be emailed to you, so you'll instantly know what's going on. So for the follow-up, for tracking, it will be miraculous. So I'm looking forward to it, and we'll give you more information as that progresses. As Bill was speaking of, the next task force meeting is going to be held on July the 29th. We'll have a roster that will be posted on who those task force members are. So if you have any certain questions or anything that you'd like for them to know, to be able to talk about with the task force, you'll be able to contact them as well. I have a solution that I just found that all of you, the neighborhoods, will be excited about, that I just met this gentleman yesterday. And if I could have hugged him, I would have. But I wasn't quite sure if he'd belt me or if he wasn't quite sure what his reaction was. So I just continually shook his hand, and then I introduced him, invited him to come to this meeting today. And his name is Mr. Ron Robinson. And Mr. Robinson is in charge of the mediation services. And what he does, and I'll just give it to you in a little bit of a nutshell, is that he is responsible for 160, is that correct number? Wonderful. 160 youth here in the Shawnee County area that must do community service, either 20 hours or 70 hours worth of it. So he actually contacted us to be able to provide a service, but we were, unfortunately, for legality issues, we weren't able to partner with him. But I said, guess who can? And I was thinking of each one of you. They're willing to cut grass. They're willing to cut down weeds. They're willing to pick up trash. They're willing to do whatever needs to be done. Safety definitely is an issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that Mr. Robinson is out here in the atrium area. When you leave, he has brought brochures, he's brought business cards, and you can dialogue with him about concerns and how possibly he can help you to enhance your neighborhood. Yes, sir? Sure, absolutely. So, Mr. Robinson, if you don't mind standing for just a moment so everyone can acknowledge who you are, and hopefully we won't bum rush him when we leave, but we'll make sure to provide him access of a table. And at this time, I will leave and say thank you again for your time, and I'm going to invite our wonderful mayor, Mayor Larry Wolgast.
Thank you, and we'll get back to your question or comment. Just very quickly, now I have about 12:02, so you're already over time. Thank you very much for participating. The quality of this meeting is dependent upon you, and I think we achieved it today. I think everyone who wanted to speak had the opportunity, provided excellent input, and this gives us guidance. Now we know some directions we should be taking, and I can speak for myself, and I know for the council members that were here, we do hear, we listen. And of course, we wish we had 500 more like you in everybody's district to make sure that we know where the people are, where they are on issues, but the quality is here. What you're saying gives us guidance, and we know when we're out taking a new direction, we have some support. So that is so important, and I encourage you to continue to participate through your NAs, your NIAs, whatever you can do, and communicate to us. We hear all the time from a lot of people. Maybe they aren't as positive as you are towards what we should be doing. So we need to hear from you too on what you think are the right directions to go. We hear the naysayers over and over saying the same things, but we need to hear the positive things. So that's what your role is. So thank you very much for participating. And I also want to acknowledge all the city staff. Those are the ones standing all around here. The police, the fire. We have the public works people with the streets, of course, the planning department that you heard many of those, the people putting this together. And then certainly the staff, the city manager, his staff play a vital role. So we're in this together. That's the important thing to take away. And I know they'll be here to answer any of the questions, receive your comments, anything else you have. But thank you again, and our summit is over. Till the next one. You had a question right over here. Comment.
Yeah. Yes, some time ago, the city had set aside money for development of a supermarket of some sort on the east side. My question is related to that statement. Dillon's has created the expansion program, and Walmart has been quoted as developing a supermarket or something of that sort. My question is, the money that was set aside for the city to participate in that type of development, where is that money and what's going to happen to it?
I can't speak to that specifically. I don't know that any money was set aside. We'll look into that. And I'll visit with you briefly for a minute, and we'll find out that answer, and we can make that a public response. Okay? Thank you very much. Our meeting is over. Thank you.